Welcome to the Town Manager Download, a podcast about local government and the town of Shrewsbury. I'm Kevin Mizikar, the Town Manager, and as always, I'm joined by Communications Coordinator Taylor Galusha. What's going on, Taylor?
We have a very exciting episode today. We're going to be debuting a new segment where we talk about some of our collective local gov nerdiness. And then later on, we'll be joined by Andy Truman, our engineering division manager, and Nick Repekta, our highway division manager, to talk about Chapter 90 funding, which helps with our road maintenance in the town from the state. So, how was your weekend? We haven't done
good.
this in a little bit.
Yeah, it's been a little while. Past weekend was good. Alexa went to prom, her junior
Yay.
prom, which was a lot of fun. Friday turned out to be a very nice day, and went out to dinner while she was away with Aaron and Ella, so it was good. Yeah, we had a fun weekend. Hoping for a little bit better weekend weather in the future, but we have to deal with it.
Definitely getting there.
Yeah. How about you?
It was good. This past weekend I went home for Mother's Day, so I spent that with my mom. But the weekend before I got to dog sit our biggest fan, Brady, my dog. Got to give her the birthday shout out. She's turning 17 on Saturday,
Wow, 17.
which is incredible. So yeah, she's my pride and joy. So she listens to the episodes, so doesn't walk out of the room. So I felt like she might be our biggest fan. So
Definitely.
had to give her the birthday shout out.
Everyone walks out of the room once in a while.
Yeah, she does when most people are talking, but apparently she likes us. So, so what's up in the shrew? What we got going on?
Well, there's a ton going on. Town meeting is just around the corner, so that's been the primary focus. You know, it's such a iterative process where we try to get everything as cleaned up and as perfect as possible, but we are far from it. But we are in the point now where everything's printed and mailed out to town meeting members, new and incumbents. So congratulations to everyone that was reelected.
Only
and
2
elected.
paper cuts this mailing, so I did pretty good for myself.
That's good. How about you? What do you see going on?
The next spring newsletter will be coming out soon, like the next 2 weeks, which is exciting. That'll be the 4th edition of the newsletter. And we'll be able to use some of the, when the board readjusted the ARPA funding, we'll be able to use ARPA funds to keep it going for a little bit longer, which I think is exciting. And I think from the feedback I've gotten directly from residents and just generally, I think that'll be a great offering that we're able to keep going for our community to keep getting information and news out there.
Great.
And then the annual report also was out on election day at all the voting precincts, which that's something I put a ton of hours into. And I'm hoping that when we submit this one in the fall, we could get first place this year.
That's awesome.
So I
So
keep making improvements. We got second place
for the 2022 year. Yeah, which by the Massachusetts Municipal Association. So that was a huge honor.
Yeah. So made some more adjustments and improvements.
Yeah, we're in the largest population category.
Yes.
So we compete with the
big
most resources.
ones. Yeah. But I do it all by hand. All of it's done by hand.
You handwrite the whole report?
Yes. Yep. No, I design the whole thing by hand. We don't outsource it to a printer anymore. We do all of it in-house minus the printing and binding, which I'm pretty proud of to have been able to bring that in-house to be able to kind of have more of a personal Shrewsbury touch on it. So I think we get exactly what we want when we do it that way. And yeah, I'm super proud of it. So
yeah, for the town report for our office and so many other aspects of the organization is not just nice to have. We look at it when it comes out in May of the year that it's published. We go back to that town report as a point of
it's a reference.
Consolidated archiving and reference of what happened in the town. It's a quick way to look at what happened at each and every individual warrant article for a town meeting and
the votes and just whatever discussion they're able to note. But it was funny because this year we were able to get all of them spiral bound for cheaper cost. And the first thing that Justin said to me was like, "Oh, this will be great in 20 years when we need to go back and scan it. I can flip it
Yeah.
over and scan it instead of right now when you have to like push it down on the copier." But
Yep.
I was like, maybe only you would have thought of that.
Yeah.
But no, you're very right. So glad that the residents get to experience the spiral bound.
Yeah. I mean, it
report
is. I mean, I
too.
can't tell you how many times we look at the most random years of books and can rely upon that information for the actions that town meeting took and town staff,
Yep.
undertook. If it's coming, up on a study or something like that, it's tremendously helpful.
And interesting. Very interesting.
Could be more nerdy than reading annual town reports from 20 years ago, though.
Talking about conferences and theory about local government.
Yep, that's true. So new segment, kind of getting into the things that are way behind the scenes that keep us passionate at work, which was a lot of fun. So I'll just start and we can dig into mine a little bit. So throughout my career, I've had a couple really, I think, landmark opportunities to go to significant professional development opportunities. And I recently had the opportunity to go to a program called the Athenian Program. So it's based upon the Athenian Oath, which, in summary, many folks in local government will know the saying, to leave the city better than you found it, right? That's the heart and ending of the Athenian Oath. So based upon that concept, it's a premier senior level or mid to late career professional development opportunity for local government managers. It's put on through the College of Charleston and the Riley Center for Livable Communities. And so I had the opportunity to go to South Carolina for a week-long program. I was there with 14 other city managers from across the country, city managers, county managers, deputies, all the senior executives. Amazing people, just incredible people that do this work across the country. And as I said while I was there, cities and towns that have, populations that make Shrewsbury basically the size of one of their neighborhoods, several 100,000 residents. And I mean, got to talk to them about how they take those tasks on and really learn about nuances and how they structure their schedules and times and all those. So the people were probably the most meaningful part of being able to go there and connect with them. The program that we went through was really deep, and we talked about local government and democracy and personal resilience, giving kind of the civil or uncivil climate that goes along with civil discourse these days. And we were separated into groups of 5, and we took on what was called a Socratic Challenge. So the Socratic Challenge group that I was on is focusing over the next few years and started while we were in South Carolina on leadership's role in building trust in local government, right? Like, trust is our value. It's our monetary system. If we don't have trust, we don't have any value in the community. So, but trust is currently being degraded, and we see it sometimes in Shrewsbury and all the time across the country. It seems to be picked up by news sources all the time about misinformation, disinformation, people actively using things that just aren't facts. And local government management as a profession came in at a time when communities were looking to build themselves and provide services that people could trust and rely upon.
Right.
And that has evolved so many times over the last 100+ years, but now we find ourselves at a time where hyper-political feelings are really starting to cause measured declines in trust in local government across the country. Local government continues to be the most trusted level of government in our country, but we've seen significant declines, over 10% in the last few years. So it's really fun to work on a challenge that's that big and get re-energized to do work that is well beyond the scope of what I get to do on a day-to-day basis in Shrewsbury and the other organizations that, I'm a board member of or volunteer for. So it was incredibly inspiring and helps recenter perspective and purpose. And I just encourage everyone in local government to find those opportunities to meaningfully connect with peers and colleagues who are like-minded or really invested. And, I think about the Local Gov 2030 program that you participated in. I'm sure that's similar. Those people that you met can create lifetime relationships.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still connected with a bunch of them, and kind of found myself in a similar situation where we were one of the smaller towns that were part of that initiative. But it was super cool to have kind of like a two-way relationship with a lot of them on just like things we're doing, things they're doing, and how we can like learn from each other. I got the chance to connect with the city manager from Lawrence, Kansas, because he really likes our podcast. And I met with their adjacent to me, like their communications coordinator or director. I don't exactly remember what her title was, but like kind of just helping her get started over there with their own type of podcast like ours. So definitely those, like having those conversations, I think, like you said, definitely reinvigorates like why you come to work, like recenters your why of like why we got in this field. I think for you, it's like super unique to like take on that like challenge, because I feel like it's kind of like a full circle moment for local governments, because like the professional administration form of local governments was born out of people kind of feeling mistrust with like political appointees running everything.
Yeah.
So definitely super cool, and I'm glad you got to do that. And
I mean, one of the other
do
programs
more.
that I have to, that I'm a true believer in is the Leading, Educating, and Developing program at the University of Virginia. That was a week-long on-site residential program that I went way back in 2006, and I still use the strategies and techniques of the high-performance organization that they talk about there. There's, many other programs. I really want to see the ICMA reestablish itself as the preeminent professional development organization as part of its membership, and providing things like Leadership ICMA and these core programs that have produced such remarkable local government leaders. They need to find a way to bring that in-person collaborative professional development back. And I'm not going to be shy about telling them that whenever I have the opportunity, because it's so meaningful.
Yeah, and I think like for me personally, like in my role, like focused on communications, opportunities that expose me to other communities that have been doing this longer than we have been super helpful for my learning, because there aren't really a lot of like webinar opportunities out there that like take it to the next level from like where we are. So I just like, I want to keep learning. I think everyone in town wants to keep learning, so it's exciting to keep finding these new opportunities to do so. And that's why we're nerds.
Yeah, and I want to congratulate the town of Tingsboro for creating their podcast and getting it up and running, entering Tingsboro. So I had a wonderful conversation with Roni Camille at the MMA conference and connected with him. And it's fun to track him and Colin on LinkedIn. And I'm just so glad to see podcasts popping up across the Commonwealth, and the more the merrier. And we can talk about wonderful things that
We're
get started.
friends, not competitors.
That's right. That's right. So, well, that probably takes us to the second segment of our conversation this afternoon, Taylor, which you highlighted to begin, which is talking about a little bit down deeper into how we manage our annual road improvement program, the funding source, and road maintenance. And for that segment, we are going to be joined by Town Engineer Andy Truman and Highway Division Manager Nick Repekta. So I'd like to welcome back to the Town Manager Download, Town Engineer Andy Truman and Highway Division Manager Nick Repekta. Welcome back, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, it's good to have you back as we dive a little bit deeper into how we keep up with roadway improvements and maintenance in Shrewsbury. So we're going to talk about Chapter 90 funding a lot today, and Chapter 90 is Chapter 90 of the Massachusetts General Laws, which provides a funding formula for cities and towns to receive aid that we can only use for roadway improvement projects and maintenance and things related to that. So I look forward to that conversation and getting us rolling.
Yeah, so I think a good place to start is the beginning. So,
Where we always start.
yeah, we always do. We always do. We go in chronological order. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about your role as it relates to road maintenance and Chapter 90 funding? So, Andy, from the design and bidding process to Nick putting the guys out there to do, guys and gals to do construction and maintenance.
Do you want me to go first? Sure,
Please.
So yeah, so it's basically Nick and I usually touching bases. Usually it starts about January.
Yeah.
We have a list of streets that we've done based on various studies over the years. So we typically sit there and we figure out, roughly how much dollars we get per foot. So we kind of back calculate to figure out how many streets we can do, and then we'll agree on the street that we're going to do, and then engineering will typically do the design and the bid procurement for it. And typically at that opportunity, we take upgrade any drainage that needs to be done. So we do use a lot of the stormwater utility fund to swap out catch basins if they're old and done. But yeah, we usually put on it early, and then we're doing the designs. Usually try and get them back about this time this year. I think we did a little earlier this year because we had more money left than usual. But yeah,
So, Andy, what are those studies that you reference? Like, what is it that we rely upon to kind of look at the conditions of our roadway, make those decisions?
So we had a consultant beta did a study in 2016 was our first roadway study. So they basically drive around and they look at the state of the road and they kind of come up with a scoring system. They call it the Pavement Management Index.
Okay.
Well, I think they called it, Pavement Management. So they come up with a benchmark and figures out, average condition of the roads. And then they basically categorize every street that they've driven on, what condition it's in, what they think it's going to cost to fix it. We just updated that in 2021. We were able to use the street scan service that we did where they drive. It's almost like Google Maps, but it's one that we pay for in-house, and it's a lot more detailed. So we realized that we could actually take that data from 21 and basically do the whole process again. So we just wrapped that up this year.
Yeah.
And the plan is next fiscal year to do another driveway study. So you want to kind of do it every 5 years. So we've done it 2016, 21. So this will be 24, 25. So it gives us a rolling score.
How do you address, you talk about the design of the road, which I want to get in a little bit deeper on, but how do you address everything that's under the road?
So we typically
first, I'm sure that happens a year or two in advance. Or
we do usually. Nick's pretty good at reaching out to like EverSource. Obviously we check with, for instance, water and sewer to make sure that they're not going to want to replace a water main
Next year
after we pave it, which is historically what happens in municipal government, right?
Yeah.
So we're pretty well coordinated on that. So we'll do any of the infrastructure, and then we typically reach out to EverSource, and Nick has a pretty good relationship with EverSource. We're like, hey, these are the roads we're working on in the next 5-10 years.
Yeah, I usually talk to EverSource, usually over the wintertime, December. I send them the list of roads that we've done within the past 5 years and the ones that we anticipate that are on our radar 3 to 5 years out. I spell it out that that's kind of a fluid document. We don't, that's the roads we anticipate we're going to do. It's not set in stone. So we actually got a pretty good rapport with EverSource being the outside utility other than our water and sewer departments, and Salco does have underground, some underground utilities. You can see the work that's going on out in the streets right now, Lakeview, Dewey, Roman Drive, Hialeah, they're all doing new gas mains. And then we'll go in after they're done. So we've got a pretty good coordination over the past 3 to 5 years with the outside utilities to make sure that their work is done, so they're not going to come in and tear up our roads afterwards.
Now, why do you send them a list of the roads that we just did in the last 5 years?
So we don't want them in the roads either, creating, different utility cuts and whatnot. If it's an emergency, it's a different story.
Sure.
But we don't want them digging up a new road that we just invested in that we anticipate to last, 25 or 30 years at the rate things are going. That's what we anticipate a road to last. We don't want them going in there. So if we can preempt that by giving them the roads that we think we're gonna do or that we have just done,
Yeah.
it'll, push their plan down the road too. Unless, again, there's some sort of a major emergency that they have to go in there and do something.
So it sounds like you take the pavement management index into account, the utilities from Selco, Eversource, and water and sewer. Is there any other factors that play into?
Usually storm drainage is the big one. And we're getting into more of the tougher roads now. So
Yeah.
I'm finding we're using more and more of the stormwater budget, but that's what it's for, right? So
We try to look at a bit of our institutional knowledge as well. We track all of our calls, all our complaints, where are we getting perpetual potholes? Where is the road patching happening the most? So we can use that. It may not key in on the worst roads on our pavement management plan, but it's going to alleviate a lot of calls. If
Right.
those are the roads that we're seeing, we try to work those into the plan as well.
yeah, because like 2 of the roads we're doing this year are School Street and Main Circle, which, as most people know, we just did the water main a couple of years ago. So
Sure.
we typically want to wait a year or two, let the trench settle out before we come in and do a paving. So
Yeah.
that may not have been high in the study, but it made sense. We've just done a water main to
Yeah.
come in and fix it because we know it's in poor shape.
Now, Andy, so let's take an average kind of neighborhood road, something like Westview or Gage Lane or Richard Ave, something like that. So if that road pops up, right, its condition is deteriorating. It's been 30 years since we've done any significant work. What design do you actually do to get bid specs out there?
So most of our projects we do what we call mill and overlay. So we basically come in and we basically skim off the top 1.5 inch of the existing pavement, and then we'll come back, swap out the drainage. We'll put in what we call a leveling course. So we try and put that crown back on the road to get the drainage out, and then we'll basically just come over with basically like a new coat of paint over the top, a new pavement. I mean, that's historically what we do on most roads. I think last year Bolson Circle we tried a new technology and in cold
Cold in place recycling.
which worked out very well, but that's a very unique process, and
So it's putting that crown back in the road, making sure that
Yeah.
what are they out there shooting, the grades and everything? Is
typically they can do it with a paving machine. So usually most of the roads aren't too bad. Again, Nick has the institutional knowledge of where we have ponding. We kind of keep an eye on that. So maybe they'll have to pay attention. But usually, it's usually just putting the crown back on because the road's kind of already following the right grade, right? I mean, we're just putting the grade back on it, and
Yep.
then it's good for a while. But
You try to shed that water to the gutters and into the drainage system. If you're upgrading the drainage, you want the water to go into
Yeah.
the catch basins and the storm drains. So with creating that profile, you're allowing it to go into the gutters. That's where you want the water, is in the gutters, and then utilizing the drainage system when we have it either upgraded or installing new ones.
And then I've especially watching the work that's been done in the town center and around the town hall over the course of the last few summers. I know we're also doing a great investment into accessibility and sidewalks and things like that. Can you talk about that?
yeah, so typically we would swap out any the what we call the handicap curb cuts with the the warning tower. So we typically swap those out as part of the work. We haven't really gone to many roads yet where we're doing sidewalks, but that's probably coming down the road at some point that we'll try and do the sidewalks. But yeah, we usually put in new crosswalks and restripe if we need to.
Yeah, the curb cuts, I believe, are a requirement through Chapter 90, through the funding to wherever there is curb cuts, to upgrade those to compliance. So that's a requirement of using the funding.
So yeah, let's talk about Chapter 90 a little bit. It's somewhat unique in Massachusetts. I'm not familiar with other states and how they may support municipalities in funding for roadway improvements, but Chapter 90 lays out a formula based upon both lane miles and population density, I believe, is the base formula. Nick, what can you tell us about that?
Yeah, so Chapter 90, it's based on local road mileage, which accounts for 58.33%. Population is 20.83%, and employment 20.83%. That gives the town each allotment. So every town's a little bit different. We're fortunate enough, we have 154 or so road miles, centerline miles that they account for, and I don't know the basis of the other two. I mean, 38,000 or so residents.
Sure.
But that's how that program works, so that the towns can use that funding how they see fit. We actually, this past year, we have $987,672 in FY '24 that the town received, and there's a warrant article every year that we accept that money, so we can use it how we see fit for our road conditions, and that's all the money that we put into roads. We spend every dollar that we can out of that fund back into our road network.
So what does that look like? What type of, how many lane miles does that get us, or linear feet, or what? How can someone get a grasp? on how
So we
much
get
work
probably
doing?
just shy of about $1 million
Yep.
from Chapter 90, and it really depends on. We probably do about a mile, maybe just over a mile of roads. It really depends on. Sometimes you're doing like little small cul-de-sacs.
Yeah.
There's some inefficiencies with, because obviously the longer straight roads you get more bang for your buck. But I think about a mile is plus or minus. And we just say we also try and spread it out throughout the town, right? So we're not focusing in one particular district.
So we're on the 153-year replacement cycle then?
About
We're close, yeah. Yeah, so when we did the study in 2016, I think the PMI was 75, which was average. When we just did it, it's coming in a poor, so we really should be looking.
We need to.
We need to start thinking about putting in more money.
I mean, this is an interesting public policy thing
Right.
that I see happening across the Commonwealth, right? So cities in town get this limited amount of funding for the state, and they go, "Well, we only get $1 million in Chapter 90. That's all we can do." Well, that's true. That's all we get in Chapter 90. But obviously, we're getting to a point as a municipality, since the Chapter 90 overall pie isn't growing and we're not getting more to help us offset inflation, and that formula isn't really changing, we're going to have to think about more local dollars into the mix, because everyone knows a road doesn't last 153 years.
our Chapter 90 allotment, just looking at the table that I have here, it's virtually the same amount dating back to 2012.
Okay.
It really hasn't changed. It's fluctuated a little bit,
Yeah.
and that just goes back to the way they dole out the formula.
Materials have gone up.
Yeah,
Labor's gone up.
Yep.
Like
So we don't get any more
Cost of
funding other than that, and that's why we try to put every dollar back into our network.
Now, we were fortunate in the 2024 fiscal cycle that we received about a 50% increase on that, because the Healy Driscoll administration provided that amount of funding from the millionaire's tax or the fair share tax. A portion of that not only goes to education, but also has to go to transportation. And they were very kind to municipalities to provide that allocation. We hope to continue to see that in fiscal year 25 and beyond. It's not 100% guaranteed, but it's something that's really meaningful. And that, of course, would get us another half mile of road or something, which isn't the answer to everything, but it certainly is more than we have today.
And I think what will be interesting is when we do the updated pavement study
yeah.
next fiscal year, because we really don't have a lot of data, because one of the issues is they're using two different metrics, so we can't really compare apples with apples. So we really need another data set, and we'll know, well, are we doing enough to keep up, or are we starting to drop behind? So I think next year we'll have a much better idea.
Yeah. So, go ahead.
Sorry, there's two different, Andy touched on it. There's PCI, payment condition index, and road surface rating. And they're supposed to correlate together, but there's no state standard or anything that you go by, because different municipalities use the different acronyms. So that's why, like you said, a second data run, when we do this again next year, will certainly correlate better to the one that was done in 2021. That'll help us tell that story, give us that answer.
Right.
Are we far behind? Is this number correct?
And it's like we have these objective metrics to measure a road or look at a road, and then there's the resident side where we're a little bit more subjective, and what's a good road, what's a bad road. The road I grew up on, my mom and dad will drive down the one next to it, so they don't have to drive down the first part of the road. Whereas I was like, I don't know, this is fine to me. So it's it's different for everybody. What's a good road?
And you say what's a good road, but that's the key, is you want to keep your good roads good.
Right.
So you'll see us out there. We'll contract with different vendors and do crack filling every year, because you want to keep that water out of the cracks, seal those up, and we can do that a couple times. But you don't want. At what point is the road beyond a surface treatment like that?
Right.
You know, those are our good roads, the 3 to 5 year old roads, and we've done that. I think last year we did like $80,000 worth of crack filling to try to keep those good roads good. You know, want to keep them up on the table as high as we can.
A lot of it's like preventative maintenance
Well, preventative
too,
maintenance,
and like fixing the drainage when you do put the roads in.
Yeah, because it's a lot easier to do a middle and overlay than a full depth. I mean, that's a, considerable upcharge to a full depth, so that's why we're trying to avoid that.
Yep.
So we talked a little bit about this, or around this actually pretty well, but how do we do that work? We said put it out to bid, but what is that process? Who actually performs the work, and what oversight does the town?
Yeah, so typically engineering will put together some plans and our typical bid sec, and we've been doing it. This is my 6th year of doing it, so we've got it down to pretty much a fine art. And I think a lot of the contractors have worked into town. We try and make it simple, so instead of detailing every art, we don't want to do lump sum because that it's a hard way to share the cost with between the town and the engineer, the consultant. But so we do lumps bid items like bid tabs. So we'll figure out how many tons of pavement we need, how much drainage we're going to swap out, and we'll put that together and we'll send it out to bid. And it's usually the same pavement contractors that bid on it because they've been doing it long enough now that they know what's involved. Cause to say we try and make it easy for us. Then once it's the bid, then typically Nick will do the day-to-day running to it on the contractor. And then if there's any issues with the design, like something drainage needs to be swapped out, then typically, he and I will go out in the field and take a look and make a call in the field what needs changing, if anything.
You don't know what you're going to find until a bucket from a machine hits the ground. You know, our plans or as-built that we have out there are sometimes not the best. So you might have to make a field change. There might be ledge underneath that catch basin, and that's why it wasn't a full depth one prior. So we have to make a field change to lower that sump depth or change the height of it, so it obviously stays below grade and catches water, but you can still get the compliance with the stormwater.
Right.
So what roads are planned for this summer? Can you name a few?
Yeah. So off
He
the top
knows
of my
them.
off the top of my head, the drainage actually has been complete on Linwood Drive. Drainage has been complete on Westmont Circle and Westmont Street. They're working on Maple Circle right now with drainage. School Street, Hill Street, Main Circle, Lakeview, Dewey, Robin Road, the Oak Street side of Worthington Ave,
Colton.
a portion of Colton Lane, and Lake Street from where they left off at the new school at New Beale at Roman and Hialeah down to the intersection of South Quincy.
That's
Yep.
yeah. I mean, it's quite a bit of roads.
It's a good number of miles.
Definitely would be helpful. Especially we know some stretches of those roadways are in pretty tough shape. Whether it's because of utility work that we've done in the last few years, which is required, or just because of the roadway surface itself on its own deteriorating.
We've been working together, you, me, and Jim, on notifications and whatnot related to the paving. So keeping everyone in the loop on what's might be a little bit slow and
We always try to coordinate
expect delays.
with traffic to make sure everybody's aware that, expect your delays. There may be a detour. Although we don't anticipate any detours, the contractor's been very upfront with maintaining traffic for a number of reasons, between school traffic, because school's currently in session, and our solid waste.
Yeah.
That's going to be affected at some point, but the contractor is confident that they're going to be able to allow those people to pass on a daily basis with minimal disruptions.
Good.
And then so it'd be a couple years that perhaps that section of Oak Street that's getting water main work done in it right now, we'd come back to that and then clean it all up.
Yep, upgrade that section. It's already in our plans, as Andy said, let it settle out for a year. We don't want to go in and do major road work and then come up to see that the compaction wasn't the best.
Yep.
And, we're investing in these roads. We have to spend the dollars. As, $1 million sounds like a lot of money, but we need to invest and make sure we're spending the dollars as wisely as we possibly can.
This is great. We appreciate all the insight into our annual roadway maintenance and improvement plan and the things that go with it, whether it's, ADA ramps for sidewalks and stormwater drainage. It's all one big working system that has to be tied together. I will say that we were going to try to do the best segment, and it got a little heated because we were talking about types of vehicles and trucks and Jeeps, and so we're gonna leave that off for this episode. We're not going to go there.
Well, I will go. No,
No, we're not going to go there.
we did
I'll have Mark
sit.
edit
We
it
sit appropriately. We're the Jeep side.
All right, we're stopping here. So, just wanted to take the opportunity to thank Nick and Andy for coming back on to the Town Manager Download. It's always a pleasure to have you on here, and we appreciate the work that you guys do on a day-to-day basis to make our roadway system safe and passable for not only public but economic activity and other means. So we encourage anyone and remind folks that if you have a question or comment, you can always reach us at tmdownload@shrewsburyma.gov. On behalf of Taylor Galusha, I'm Kevin Mizikar. Thank you for listening.